A world before Adam? The hidden truth in the Bible before Genesis? The creation got erased. When most people open the Bible, they assume the story starts with Adam and Eve. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Sounds final, absolute, the beginning of everything. But what if it wasn't? What if Adam was not the first human being, or even the first civilization? What if there was a forgotten world, a creation that existed long before Eden, one that rose to power, defied God, and was wiped from existence in judgment? Strangely, the Bible itself contains clues that suggest this possibility. And if we dig into those clues, a shocking picture begins to emerge. A world before Adama, creation erased. Let's start with the text itself. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is perfect. God creates, and what God creates is always good. But then, verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Hold on, something doesn't add up. Between verse 1 and verse 2, perfection becomes chaos. How the Hebrew word translated as was can also mean became. The passage could read, the earth became formless and void. The phrase formless and void in Hebrew is tahu va'ah, a phrase used elsewhere in Scripture to describe judgment, ruin, and desolation, a fresh creation. This opens the door to a radical idea. Perhaps Genesis 1:1 describes an original creation, and Genesis 1:2 describes that creation after it was judged and destroyed. This is what theologians call the gap theory, or the Pre-Adamic age. So what could have caused such destruction? The most common explanation is the rebellion of Lucifer. Isaiah 14 describes a mighty being who said, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High. Ezekiel 28 describes the anointed cherub who was in Eden, perfect until iniquity was found in him. Revelation 12 tells of a great dragon, sweeping a third of the stars from heaven, with his tail interpreted as angels who fell with him. Put these together, you get a picture of cosmic rebellion. Lucifer and his angels rising against God, cast down in defeat. Many theologians believe the chaos of Genesis 1-2 is the scar left by this rebellion. The earth, once perfect, became a wasteland under judgment. Now here's where things get really intriguing. If there was a rebellion before Adam, what else might have existed before him? Some scholars and mystics suggest there may have been a pre-Adamic civilization. Evidence let's consider. In Genesis 1:28, God tells Adam and Eve to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. That word replenish can mean fill again. Why would God say refill unless it had been filled before? Archaeology sometimes uncovers out-of-place artifacts. Objects or structures that seem too advanced or too old to fit the accepted timeline. Could these be faint traces of a forgotten age? Ancient traditions from Sumer, Mesopotamia, and even Native American myths speak of golden ages, worlds destroyed by floods, or gods who wiped out corrupt creations before starting anew. The theory suggests that before Adam, there may have been beings perhaps human-like. Perhaps not that ruled the earth, rebelled with Lucifer, and were wiped away when judgment fell. When Genesis continues with the 6 days of creation, what we might be seeing is not the creation of the universe from nothing, but a recreation or restoration of the earth after catastrophe. So what happened to this pre-Adamic world? Genesis 1:2 tells us, darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. This suggests a flood, not Noah's flood, but a flood far earlier. The earth was submerged, drowned, covered in darkness. Some call this the Luciferian flood, a cosmic judgment that obliterated everything before Adam. If true, this means Noah's flood was not the first time God used water to judge the earth, it was the second. Why would God erase an entire creation? Possibilities. The inhabitants of the pre-Adamic world joined Lucifer's rebellion, choosing corruption over truth. Violence, pride, or idolatry may have spread through that world, mirroring what would later happen in Noah's day. God, in his sovereignty, may have chosen to wipe the slate clean and begin anew, creating Adam and Eve as the foundation of a fresh start. This raises a staggering possibility. Adam wasn't the first man ever created, but the first man of a restored world. Are there other hints of this forgotten chapter? Jeremiah 4:23 uses the same Hebrew phrase, tahuva, babu. When describing a vision of the earth laid waste, I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void. It is tied directly to judgment. 2 Peter 3 speaks of the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. Some argue this refers not to Noah's flood but to a much earlier destruction. Countless myths from Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece speak of worlds destroyed and remade. The Bible may be giving us the true version of these myths. Could these echoes be faint memories of the pre-Adamic world? So what do we make of this? Maybe Adam really was the first man and Genesis is the beginning of all creation. Or maybe, just maybe, Genesis is the story of a new creation, built on the ashes of one that came before. The Bible doesn't give us every answer. It gives us glimpses, hints, shadows of a greater story. A story of rebellion, destruction, and renewal. And maybe, just maybe, between the first 2 verses of Genesis lies the greatest secret of all. A world before Adam, a creation erased, and a reminder that even in judgment, God is always writing the story of redemption anew. So what do you think? Was there really a world before Adam? Was Genesis the beginning, or was it a new beginning?